Max Payne 3 was a game I played probably back in 2013, 2014. And back when I played it, it was probably my favorite shooter story game I'd ever played. I decided I wanted to try to play it now and see how it held up compared to back then. And also back then when I played it, I hadn't played the first two, and now I have, so I can judge it based on those. This game takes place 9 years after the second game. Max is now security for the Bronco family, and instead of New Jersey, he's in Brazil. Although you do get flashback missions, which are set in New Jersey, that gives you that old school Max Payne feel. This game also swaps out the comic book type loading screens for more modern cinematics. I think they are really good at just showing how much of a mess Max is at this point in his life. I think the effects that they add in just really convey just how lost he is when he's not on the job. Although there are way too many of them added like in between gameplay. Like there'll be ones where it'll literally be like a 10-second cutscene of just more enemies walking through the door. So I don't really know why they had to have those in. I think it interrupts the gameplay like a lot. Another thing that amplifies this is there's usually a long cutscene at the end of a mission and then another one at the beginning of the next mission. So combine that two, and then there were a lot of times where you have like a quick gunfight in the beginning of the mission that's like, I don't know, you kill like 10 people, and then there's another cutscene, so it just really drags down the gameplay. I also think the story of this game is pretty good. It's not like anything crazy, I would say is on par with the first two games. The premise basically is this Bronco family that you're working for. At one of the parties you're protecting them at, they get kidnapped, and throughout the rest of the game you're trying to figure out why they've been kidnapped and try to get them back. There's enough twists and turns that keeps you interested the whole game. One of the negatives though is your new like sidekick, his name's Paso. He's kind of with you for the first like 70% of this game, and he's always like with you, but then he kind of just disappears to like the end of the mission and then just comes and like kind of gets you out of the area. So it's kind of unfortunate. You don't really get any help with him. I will say though, I think they did a good job establishing the friendship with Pastos pretty well. Oh, and of course, Max is voiced by James McCaffrey, who of course does a great job. A lot of the inner dialogue and dialogue in the cutscenes I think really just makes this game.
Here. The family we were protecting were local celebrities, rich parasites with delusions of humanity. The kind of people who end up in glossy magazines or body bags, depending on how their luck runs.
It's one of the best written dialogue I think I've ever played in a video game. And really just from him talking to himself just makes you kind of grasp at who he is and how he thinks. That's probably as far as I'll go for the story, because if you haven't played it, I think it's worth playing and I don't want to spoil it. This game also launched with a multiplayer, which I remember playing back when I played it on the 360, and it was fun. I tried playing it on PC now, but the game just dead. Can't find any games, which was unfortunate. There are also like challenge modes and stuff you can do, so there's a lot of replayability there. Now onto the best part of every Max Payne game, and that's the gameplay. This is definitely my favorite gameplay out of the series. Everything basically returns from the older games. You got bullet time back, which I think is the best it's been. Especially with Max diving. He has a weight to him, like physics, thanks to the new engine. And it really just gives it a realistic feel and look. Max now can carry up to 2 pistols and 1 primary. With when you're not using the primary, he just carries it in his offhand. Also the kill cams when you kill the last enemy in the area are very satisfying, and the fact you can keep shooting after it makes it a better feature, I think. There's also a last stand mode, which is good most of the time, but there are times where you get hit, and the way Max's body is, like, he'll be facing the other direction of where you got hit, so you have to spin around, and it actually makes like his arms spin around, and you have to wait till he finally gets facing the guy that killed you. So sometimes it's impossible to get the kills, so you just kind of sit there and watch the slow-mo for 10 seconds and then you just die. There's also scripted action sequences which are very good. It's usually Max like falling off something or jumping over something, and there'll be like 5 to 10 enemies and you just have to kill them all in the slow-mo period.
God damn it!
There aren't really many bosses in this. I would say like maybe two. Most of the hard enemies are just like guys with armor or guys with big guns, stuff like that. I will say another annoying thing about the gameplay though is with how often the cutscenes are like in between fights. For some reason they made it so every time there's a cutscene and you come out of the cutscene, you come out with your pistol out instead of your primary, so that can be annoying because there's a lot of times where you come out of the cutscene and there's like enemies right in front of you already. So it can just be annoying constantly having to switch back to your primary even though you never put it away. I also think another spot that they did really good is the locations for the missions. They're also different that it never really gets repetitive in any way. You got things from offices where you just kind of wreak havoc and there's just debris flying everywhere as you're jumping over cubicles. You got one mission on a yacht.
Party favor you wanted on this vessel.
Like I said before, there's a mission where you're back in New Jersey and you're in a bar and eventually end up in a cemetery. There's one where you're in a stadium and throughout the whole mission you kind of work your way all through the stadium and see all the different points in it. There's a nightclub one which kind of reminds you of the first John Wick movie, which I think if they made a John Wick game with kind of this physics and gameplay, it would be amazing. And there's even a mission in an airport. So I think overall the mission design and scenery of the missions is one of the best parts of the game. There's also a good section that takes place in favelas, which I think they did good making it feel crammed and realistic how they actually are. But I think for the style of how this game is, it just kind of makes it annoying and tedious for the gunfights because you don't have any room to kind of dive and really utilize the gameplay. So I think overall this game was a good ending to a great trilogy. It's definitely not as perfect as I remember it being, with there not being a lot of problems, but the problems that are there really like weigh the game down. But I think there's way more good than bad in this game. And I think they did a good job ending the game and Max's story. Now they are remaking the first and second game, so it's going to be interesting to see where they go with like the gameplay and feel of the game, if they follow the first and second or implement some things from the third game. And also with James McCaffrey passing away, I don't really think there's a future of the game. I couldn't see a world where someone else gets the voice Max. I just don't think it would work well. I feel like he really made the character his own. So it's definitely interesting to see what they do with the first and second one and if they decide to do something else after that. But overall, I would give this game like a solid 8.5. Like I said, I really like it. I think it still holds up gameplay wise as like the best gameplay you can get out there. And it's just really fun. So yeah, I appreciate it for watching and have a good day.
There it was, the soundtrack to my life. And, for a few seconds, came harmony. Finally,